Okay, welcome to the second video. We spent 1 hour on effectively only the first article of the Constitution, the part that outlines what Congress does. Oh, one last piece. I didn't get all of it in there. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty, tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter to any agreement or compact with another state, or with a foreign power, or engaging in war, unless actual invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit or delay. So you can't, the state of Colorado cannot basically prepare for war, hold war machines, said ships of war, but obviously that could be other stuff, in a time of peace if we're not engaged in a war. And we can't make any deal, or each state can't make a compact with another state or a foreign power and engage in a war unless that state is actually invaded. So if Canada invaded state of Washington, only then could the state of Washington make an agreement with Idaho and Montana, or maybe Russia, to defend itself. Anyway, okay. Article 2, the president. The executive power. All right. Show what number of pages on here. Oh, wait, here we go. All right, 12 to 27. All right, almost halfway. Okay, Article 2, Section 1. The executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during a term of 4 years, and together with the vice president, chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. Okay, each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator or representative or person holding the office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. That's interesting. So every state gets an elector, or gets electors, and those electors add up to the total number of senators and representatives that are held in Congress. So how do you appoint an elector? That's interesting. It's not
they've been talking about, changing the number of electors as far as doing the voting to get rid of that.
right.
I think they have to add an amendment in order to do that.
I mean, I would, yeah, but this doesn't give a whole lot of definition as to how the electors are chosen. As far as getting rid of them, I don't think you can get rid of them unless we change the Constitution.
I think they were doing is they didn't like the fact that the electors are the ones that actually get into verifying the elections as opposed to the popularity, the popular vote.
Well, that's the way I understand it, is that however the election for president of the popular vote, pans out, each representative area divides their electors based on what area won the election, what side won the election. No, I know some states are the whole state votes and then they get all the electors. In other states, you can get some electors and the other party can get the other ones. But it's fascinating what an elector is versus a voter. So you have a completely separate system, a separate entity that truly is the one that elects the president.
Right.
And they're obligated to vote as per how the popular vote went.
Right.
But how that person becomes that person, it says each state shall appoint. If you recognize each state is really us and whatever government structure we come together, it's the people that are appointing the electors, or supposed to. Okay, moving forward. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot of 2 persons of whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. Fuck that shit. So they're in their states and they vote by ballot for two persons. Oh, I see. So they make two votes, I guess, and one can be from their state and one isn't. That's weird. For whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state. So when the electors meet in their state and vote by ballot for two persons, one has to be, and one cannot be an inhabitant of the same state. That's wild. And they shall make a list of all persons voted for and of the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify and transmit sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, Washington, D.C., directed to the president of the Senate. Who's that? Vice president. The president of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be the president, in such number of a majority of the whole number of electors appointed. And if there be more than one have such majority and have an equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately choose by ballot one of them for president. And if no person have a majority, then from the five highest of the list of said house shall in like manner choose the president. So if there is no majority, then the House of Representatives choose by ballot. And if no person have a majority, then from the five highest of the list, the said house shall in like manner. So they'd have to vote. If there's a tie, they basically do their own vote with a ballot. And if there is no clear majority, they take the top five and they vote again. The vote shall be taken by states, the representation from each state having one vote. All right. But in choosing the all right, second one. So if there's a tie, all right, that's interesting. All right, so if there's a tie, the House of Representatives votes. But in choosing the president, the vote shall be taken by states, the representation from each state having one vote. So when these House of Representative votes, they don't get everybody gets every single representative. You get one representative per state. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of member or members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of the states shall be necessary to a choice. If every case after the choice of the president, the person having the greatest number of votes of the electors shall be the vice president. But if there should remain two or more who have equal votes, the Senate shall choose from them by ballot the vice president. Okay, so basically when you take the top five and you vote, whoever gets the most votes is president, whoever the second most votes is the vice president. All right, the Congress may determine the time for choosing the electors and the day of which they shall give their votes. So Congress chooses election day, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. That's why it's election day. We all get the same one. Well, Congress may determine the time. Oh, reading that one again. Sorry. All right. No person except a natural born citizen or a citizen of the United States. What are you, Brian? Are you a natural born citizen, a citizen of the United States, or neither?
Neither. I'm a state citizen.
I think I can put you as a natural born citizen. I think I can just kidding.
In a state. Sure.
Yeah. You go. At the time of the adoption of this Constitution, shall be eligible to the office of president. Neither shall the person be eligible to the office who shall not have attained the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the United States. So you got to be a citizen, natural born, or citizen of the United States. You got to be at least 35 years old and been a resident within the United States for 14 years, which is interesting because it doesn't tell you how long you got to be a citizen. I know the representatives that say you got to be a certain age and you got to be a citizen for 7 years or whatnot. So, all right. In case of the removal of the president from office or his death, resignation, or inability to discharge the powers and duties of the said office, the same shall devolve on the vice president. Or the same powers. Yeah. Vice president and the Congress may by law provide for the case of removal, death, resignation, or inability, both of the president and the vice president, declaring what officer shall then act as president, and such officer shall act accordingly until the disability removed or a president shall be elected. So, president's removed, the vice president steps in, and if the president and the vice president are removed, Congress can provide and declare an officer that will become president until an election can occur. I have a weird feeling that might become more relevant somewhat in your future. President shall, at stated times, receive for his services a compensation which shall neither be increased nor diminished during the period of which he shall have been elected. So they get raises, but they don't get raises while they're in office. He shall not receive within the period any other emolument from the United States or any of them. So you can't get any extra perks being president. You get your compensation, and that's it. Before he entered the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will be the best and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Whew. Easy chills. Okay, section 2, Article 2, section 2. The president shall be commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states. When called into the actual service of the United States, he may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices. And he shall have power to grant reprieves, and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. Does that make sense? President can't keep somebody from being impeached. She shall have power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provide 2/3 of the senators present concur, and he shall nominate and by and with the advice of consent of the Senate shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministries, councils, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States, whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law, but the Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper, in the president alone, in the courts of law, or in the heads of departments. So, president gets to appoint a lot of offices, people to offices, and the Senate has to agree to it by 2/3. And I think we've seen recently, that's always been a contentious thing where a president has appointed a judge and they don't get placed because the Senate is delaying or fighting that appointment. The president shall have power to fill up the vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions which shall expire at the end of their next session. So he can fill up Senate vacancies to anybody that's in recess of the Senate until the end of their next session. Oh. All right, section 3. He shall from time to time give the Congress information on the state of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. He may, on ordinary occasions, convene both House or either of them, convene both houses or either of them, and in the case of disagreement between them with respect to the time of adjournment, he may adjourn them to such times as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed, and shall commission all the officers of the United States. I think that says a lot. For some reason, I'm not wrapping my head around it, but you basically, you got to give a State of the Union, and what he says, he may on extraordinary occasions convene. He may adjourn them in such time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed, and shall commission all the officers of the United States. So he has to commission all the officers, and he can receive ambassadors and public ministers. I wonder if that's his cabinet. I feel like that might be his cabinet. All right, section 4, President, Vice President, all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for the conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. I tell you what, treason's an interesting one. Aiding and abetting a foreign power against the United States of America.
Bingo.
Yeah. Don't want to go down that rabbit hole either right now, but let your mind percolate. All right, so that was Article 2.
Ray, I have a question in that, and I may have missed it, but where in the Constitution does he have the executive orders to write? And
that's an excellent question. Let me see.
and comply with, defend the Constitution of the United States.
Wait, say that last part again.
Well, the executive orders plus where he says that he's going to, follow the Constitution, protect.
Well, it says that he has to give this.
Right, he's going to
oath of office.
Right, but what of the executive orders are contradictory to, say, preserve, protect? I'm looking at where does it say he's got the authority to write those executive orders?
Right at the beginning of Article 2, Section 1.
Okay.
Executive power shall be vested.
So, and the executive powers are effectively outlined here, though, right? I guess he gets to act as the executive. I mean, if there's a situation outside of legislation, outside of appropriations, outside of spending money, of creating laws, outside of the Supreme Court, ruling on laws, that's his domain, I guess, and I think that becomes the argument of what he should be doing versus what Congress is doing. Congress is, I think, the big picture, there's many of them doing a lot of work, passing laws, handling a lot of things. They got their own energy, their own motive. And, the way this whole document is put together is a balance of powers. The legislative branch has a specific duty, energy. The executive branch has one, and the judicial branch does. And it's a balance of powers where they're checking on each other, making sure they're doing everything right. Congress starts passing laws, state governments start passing laws that are not constitutional. That's what the Supreme Court's there for, to make sure that they are, make sure that people are protected.
Yeah.
In the executive branch, the president has, the executive authority to lead the nation. And if he gets out of line, there's methods for impeachment by the Congress. The Congress checks the president. So anything that's not in the Congress definition of the Constitution and the judicial section, you could say it falls to the president. Now, I can't really point you directly to that. That's just my That's just me. That's how I look at it, I guess. So.
Well, I look at it, executive power different than I do executive order. An order is
Yeah,
kind of
there-
like,
yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think the confusion too is what's going on now, and are we actually in a state of war? Which
right.
I've heard people say that.
postpones a lot of that. Yeah,
Well,
And that's
and
true.
like,
That might,
the concern was, that's what I was saying, as far as protect. I mean, some of these orders coming out is they're really not protecting us.
right.
That's what I was kind of referring to, is that yes, he has executive power, but the orders he's writing is not really protecting us. That's, I mean, yeah, he's got the powers, but when he's
Yeah.
ordering something that he has no, you know,
he's got to defend the Constitution of the United States, you know, and if you understand the parties to that, you know, he's the king of the trustees. All right.
I
He's the,
think that's also where we fall under our attorneys. And that's why a lot of things have gone to the Supreme Court and they have deemed it unconstitutional. Some of these
Right.
executive orders that he's done.
right. And that's, yeah, you're right. There you go. I mean, if it's not, if it's repugnant to the Constitution, yeah, I get, there you go. If what they do, the Supreme Court can rule on it, but the Supreme Court won't rule on it by itself. You know, somebody's got to say, hey, this is unconstitutional, and bring it to a federal court.
right.
So yeah, it's the checks and balances, you know. So yeah, and that's the thing, you know, it's like this, everything in here says you got to be constitutional. Congress has to be constitutional. Executive branch has to be constitutional. But the whole reason the system is the way it's set up, the way it is, and that the state governments are given authority to kind of create their own rules and their own laws for their own people and their own citizens, is that in the effort to provide public safety and protect everybody, you could get focused on something so strong to provide some certain protection and not realize it's totally unconstitutional. I mean, that is really kind of a big part of our entire government, a big part of our system, is those checks and balances. Like, you know, and seeing the Supreme Court taking certain actions lately, you know, it's telling me that it's adhering to the Constitution, doing what it's really supposed to.
Yeah.
So, all right.
And to follow that up, just that rights cannot be diminished through succession of law.
Correct.
So as they create all these new laws, it has to not infringe on the original rights. So yeah,
Or the original version of the law. I know I've been doing a lot of stuff looking up acts, you know, the Federal Reserve Act specifically. You know, the
Yeah.
acts get written in Congress and they get voted on, and those are the verbiage, that's the language of that law, of that act. And then they codify it and they turn it into a federal code.
yeah,
And they basically just take the gist of it. They don't take the exact verbiage and they leave out certain things.
right.
You know, they even kind of omit sections and say it's covered over here. And so all they try to use are just the codes, their version, their current rendition of what that act was.
Yeah.
But if you understand what Brian just said, is that the original language, the original creation and protection of a right can't get diminished. You can only enhance on the individual's rights.
Right.
And that energy is what gets subverted. That is the purpose. And since we give up our power, we give up our recognition of our rights, our ability to govern ourselves, it gets turned into them creating laws for us to follow and becoming more subservient. Okay, Article 3. Judicial powers of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and such inferior courts. Did I read this already? Court such inferior courts as the Congress may be time to time ordained and established. The judges both of the Supreme and inferior court shall hold their offices during good behavior and shall at stated times receive for their services compensation. And it can't be diminished throughout their entire term as office. So they can't get paid less. They don't, no pay cuts for the Supreme Court. So yeah, again, Supreme Court and such inferior courts. So the inferior courts are the federal district courts. All right. And again, the Supreme Court's job is really to make sure the Constitution is being, adhered to, and the federal district courts are specifically watching over those states that are in that district, and allowing the state governments to operate as they're supposed to in the state courts. And should those state courts make a mistake, as humans can, the inferior federal courts are there to take on those cases. And even if they don't do it right, you can appeal that to the Supreme Court. All right. Here's a fun one. All right, Section 2, Article 3, Section 2. The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under the Constitution, the laws of the United States, the treaties made of which shall be made under the authority to all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and councils, to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction. Those are some fun words too. To controversies to which the United States shall be a party, to controversies between two or more states, between a state and citizens of another state, between citizens of different states, between citizens of the same state claiming lands under grant of different states, and between a state or the citizens thereof and foreign state citizens or subjects. So yeah, whenever a state is involved in some kind of a suit or a case, the judicial powers of the federal government preside, and they can preside through their inferior courts, the federal district courts. All right, the admiralty and maritime I thought were quite interesting. I added the definition there: admiralty, jurisdiction over maritime law. All right. Another definition: the executive department or officers formerly having general authority over British naval affairs. Interesting. British naval affairs in our Constitution. So commerce at sea. So yeah, we got British naval affairs and maritime and admiralty and commerce at sea. Yeah, any cases that involve commerce over the seas falls under the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Uh-oh, I'm out of water. All right, in all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers or councils, and those in which a state shall be party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. So they are that's where the case will get open for anything affecting an ambassador, a public minister, or those in which a state is party to, straight to the Supreme Court. I think what I said earlier about the federal courts is wrong. So in those specific circumstances, the court case can be opened with the Supreme Court. And all other cases before mentioned, the Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction, both as to the law and fact and such exceptions and under such regulations as Congress shall make. So some cases can originate in the Supreme Court. Some of them have to be appealed. That's the beauty of this, the system, is that if you don't like what happened in a court case, you can appeal it. And there's a whole system within each state of a court of appeals. And if you get through that and you still don't like what you got, you can appeal it. And the Supreme Court chooses to hear it or not.
You know what I find interesting is
What's
that there's no page of word definitions, and also their use of capitalized words versus uncapitalized words.
Totally.
I know, it's like, wow.
But I mean, this is a, I'm wondering if it's, I'm assuming it's the same way in the original draft. You know, they didn't just add capitals when they converted it. You see, Just give me the image, Joe. Yeah. I'm not gonna find it quickly.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So, okay. All right. The trial of all crimes, except the case of impeachment, shall be by jury. And such trial shall be held in the state where the said crime shall have been committed, but when not committed within any state, the trial shall be at such place or places as Congress may by law have it directed. So all criminal cases shall be by jury. Unless you decide to give up your constitutional right and take a plea deal. What's weird too is that it's a crime to convince somebody out of their right. It's a crime to extort somebody from something they already have and treat them or act as if they have to do something to get it. Yeah. All right. Article 3, Section 3. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them. Treason against the, okay, you know, it's weird. Or in adhering, okay. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid or comfort. So adhering to other enemies. He's doing stuff to what an enemy tells him to do. It's treason. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of 2 witnesses to the same overt act or in confession in open court. Congress shall have power to declare the punishment of treason, for no attainder or treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture except during the life of the person attainted. Weird one. I definitely looked up some stuff. So attainder means the extinction of rights. So by being convicted of treason, it doesn't take away all your rights. And then yeah, so no attainder of treason. So you can't lose any rights for simply being convicted of treason. And your corruption of blood is inheriting, retaining, or transmitting any state rank or title. So if you're rich and you commit treason, I'm thinking what it says, they can't take all your stuff. You can still transmit it or possibly receive transmission. Okay. Article 4. Section 1, full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state. And the Congress may by general laws prescribe the manner in which such acts, records, and proceedings shall be proved and the effect thereof. Yeah, so public acts and records must be treated fairly and give the same credit amongst all the states. Section 2, the citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. All right, so I think Article 4 here is really defining rights and privileges of the states or addressing them.
That's why we can record our statements and our affidavits in other states and they're still effective.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so Article 1 is Congress. Article 2 is executive branch, president. Article 3, Supreme Court, judicial system. Article 4, how it relates to the states and the citizens of the states. All right, a person charged in any state with treason, felony, or other crime who shall flee from justice and be found in another state shall, on demand of the executive authority of the state from which he fled, be delivered up and be removed to the state having jurisdiction of the crime. No person held in service of labor in one state under the laws thereof, escaping into another, shall, in consequence of any law or regulation therein, be discharged from such service or labor, but shall be delivered up on claim of the party to whom such service or labor may be due. So this is the Fugitive Act. I know that not an act, but this is addresses that is that if somebody commits a crime in one state, they cannot get refuge in another state. They can be brought back to that state. And so no person held in service or labor in one state. What is that? Okay, that's slavery.
I was gonna say slavery.
Yeah, so a slave, when this Constitution was written, they put it in here that if you are a slave in one state, you cannot be discharged of your service in another state. And this part of the Constitution is what motivated a lot of the southern states to succeed and create a confederation, because their slaves were escaping and going north, and those states were not assisting in bringing them back. So all right, I'm gonna pause this real quick. Sorry. Okay. All right, Article 4, Section 3. New states may be admitted to Congress. Congress may admitted by Congress into the Union, but no new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of any other state, nor any state be formed by the junction of two or more states or parts of states, without the consent of the legislature of the states concerned as well as of the Congress. So if two states want to get together, make a great state, their state legislatures have to pass it, and so does Congress. If you want to break them apart and do stuff, you got to get those states' agreement, and as well as Congress. Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory of other property belonging to the United States. And nothing in the Constitution shall be so construed as to prejudice any claims of the United States or of any particular state. So Congress can't play favorites. And they may make laws and make rules and regulations for any territory that may be property of the United States that are in a state. Which is kind of weird, because they shouldn't have any property. All right, Section 4. The United States shall guarantee to every state in the Union a republican form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion and on application of legislature or of the executive, when the legislature cannot be convened, against domestic violence. So here is a perfect example. Each state gets to create the type of government that it wants, whatever the people of that state want. That's how it's supposed to be. You know, all the new states that got created right after the Civil War, right after the Reconstruction, we all got dropped little de facto governments into each state. You simply by getting more and more people to come over to this country from Europe, and as soon as there's enough of a population by the Northwest Ordinance, Northwest Territory, a state could be formed. And to create more and more states faster and faster, they got this the de facto cookie cut governments. But nevertheless, the power of our own government resides in us. And it simply has to be a Republican form of government. So it has to be a representation. You have to be able to elect a representative to speak for you in that government. So we could have totally constitutional, a purely republic government. Every law, every statute, everything that gets passed by that government, every single individual in the state can vote on. Is that better? Is it worse? I don't know. All right, Article 5. Congress, whenever 2/3 of the House shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to the Constitution, or on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which in either case shall be valid to all intents and purposes as parts of this Constitution, when ratified by the legislature of 3/4 of the several states, or by convention in 3/4 thereof, as the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by Congress, provided that no amendment which may be made prior to the year 1808 shall in any manner affect the 1st and 4th clauses in the 9th section of the 1st article, and that no state without its consent shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate for representation. Whew. All right, that's the entitled Article 5. So to make an amendment, 2/3 of Congress has to vote on it and pass on it. Wait, sorry, 2/3. So they can bring a amendment and vote on it by 2/3. Is it in addition to? Amendments or the application? As it intended, shall propose, so they can propose amendments, or the state legislatures can propose amendments if 2/3 of the states agree to propose an amendment. In either case, So the amendments are proposed by Congress, by 2/3 of the Congress, or 2/3 of the state governments. And when they're ratified by 3/4 of the several states, provided that no amendment. So it'll be treated as part of the Constitution. So I guess when they propose it, the Congress would vote on it, but it would still have to be ratified by 3/4 of the states. So I wonder if the states, 2/3 of the states come with an amendment, and then they ratify it in their own legislature, if Congress ever even votes on it. I mean, I would imagine they have to. So, all right. Oh yeah. So the protect the first to the first and fourth clauses, the ninth section. So the first and fourth clause. Did it work? Oh, hey, look at me. Look at me. All right. So this is the import of persons that we talked about earlier. And then the fourth clause is no direct tax can be used. Capitation is a direct tax on the person, on an individual. So any amendment cannot interfere with how the states import their persons or the fact that they can be taxed. And no amendment can create a tax on an individual. All right. Article 6. This is a big one. Article 6. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. All debts contracted and entered into, yes, all debts that were there before this Constitution are there after the Constitution. All right, this Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, of which shall be made, under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. All right, Article 6, Clause 2, the Supremacy Clause. This is it. This Constitution and everything laid out in it, all the laws of the United States, take precedent and are applicable throughout the land, in every situation, in every circumstance, in every contract. The senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation. All right, all judicial officers, all state legislatures, all executive officers, both of the United States and the several states, shall have an oath that they're going to uphold this Constitution. And again, willfully depriving somebody of their constitutional rights and having an oath of office is punishable by law. It is punishable up to 2 years in prison, I believe. Brian might know that one better than me, but. All right, so an oath of affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification for any office of public trust under the United States. Separation of church and state. Article 7. The ratification of the Convention of 9 states shall be sufficient for the establishment of this Constitution between the states so ratifying the same. This part was some corrective things, I believe, in the original writing. I think they, the word "the" being interlined between the 7th and 8th lines of the first page. I think it was just a correction for being able to read it. So done in convention of the unanimous consent of the states present this 17th day of September in the year of our Lord, 1787, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 12th in witness whereof we have hereunto subscribed our names. So here are all the folks from each state, the people from each state that put their name to this Constitution. All these folks. See, a Baldwin is on there. Interesting. What else we got? Alexander Hamilton. I heard he did a lot of plays. Yeah. Benjamin Franklin. We the people. That's what it looks like. Can't read that. Well, here we go. Last little thing. Maybe we're going to hit this timing perfectly. Part of the Constitution is the Bill of Rights. It is the first 10 amendments. I took this from the exact same spot, I think, that I got the articles. All right, Amendment 1, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peacefully assemble and to petition the government for a redress, remedy of grievances. So Congress can't make a law respecting an establishment of religion to prohibit the free use of their religion, or abridging the freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom to peacefully assemble, and the freedom to ask the government for remedy of grievances. I think that's an interesting one. Asking, we can petition the government for a remedy. They're already wanting us to ask for help. Amendment 2, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. We're not talking about the citizens. We're not talking about the persons. The people of the nation, the right to keep and bear arms. So keeping arms is one thing. Bearing means taking on the responsibility. When you bear children, you're taking responsibility of it. Amendment 3, no soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. So time of peace, they can't put soldiers in a house, but in time of war, they can do it if it is prescribed by law, I think. Fourth Amendment. All right, these are the good ones. The right of the people to be secure in their persons. Well, right there in the Fourth Amendment, you're talking about the people being different than the persons. And you can see that the people are in possession. They have a person. Just like their houses, their person is their possession, belongs to them. They get the use of it. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So there you go. They got to say exactly what it is they're looking for, exactly what it is they want as far as your property, exactly where it is. And there needs to be a warrant issued. And the person approving the warrant has to have an oath of office. And they have to have an oath to support the Constitution. So if there is not against unreasonable search and seizures, I mean, unless you're caught in the act and anybody comes in and wants to check out your place, your property, your car, what's in your pockets, it needs to be reasonable. It can't just be what they want, what they think, what they assume, what they presume, what they imagine, what they make up. And this is a big one. I mean, your Fourth Amendment. Fifth Amendment. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken away for public use without just compensation. Lots of stuff there. Lots of stuff there. You can't be tried twice for the same thing, even in a different court. Same offense. You cannot be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against yourself. You can't incriminate yourself. This is the justification for the Miranda rights. That you don't have to say anything. If you're being questioned, you don't have to answer them. That is your Fifth Amendment right. And the questioning starts as soon as they start asking questions. That is when the interrogation starts. So you incriminate yourself prior to that, prior to them reading your rights, you can fight it in court. Amendment 6. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature of the cause of the accusation, and be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for attaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. Fascinating. There's so much in that. Fast and speedy trial. You know, they can't keep you in the clink and then, you know, keep you around for months and months before they give you your trial. You know, the trial can happen where needs to be happening where the crime may have been committed, and that district, that location, has to be ascertained by law. It has to be recognized. So, at one time when there weren't a bunch of states, and we probably still had some territories, you couldn't just make up your own district, try somebody, you know, convict them. That district had to be recognized by law, by Congress. You have the right to be informed of the nature of your accusation. So if you're detained and they don't tell you why, they're depriving your rights. And if there's a witness that said you did something, you have the right to be confronted to see who it is, who's saying it, who's accusing you of things that's taking away your rights. And you have the compulsory process to obtain witnesses in your favor. So in any trial, you have the right to obtain any witnesses that will support your case. And you have the right to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. What is super awesome about that last sentence?
You don't have to hire an attorney.
Doesn't say attorney, doesn't say lawyer, it says counsel. Counsel can be anybody. Anybody that'll give you counsel, give you help, give you guidance. That's the Constitution. So in the state government says you have to have a bar attorney. Just throwing out ideas. All right, Amendment 7. In suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved. And no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of common law. So if you win a case by jury, it's over. It can't be re-examined. It can't be appealed. A higher court can't come back and say, well, let's take another look at it. Now, I don't know what is in suits at common law. What does that mean? Anybody? And I guess cases in common law, no, where they're not. No, let's just read it again. Maybe they let's pull this over here. Contradistinction. Does anybody know this is a word? Whoa. Why is it doing that?
Yeah. Contradistinction.
Contradistinction. I'm Googling it. Oh, contrast. How about that? Oh. So it's contrast that's quite distinctive. Okay. Okay. No, it doesn't answer the question, but anyway, I guess we'll have to touch that later. Amendment 8. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments. You know, this one actually kind of hits hard to home because I know a handful of people that have been incarcerated recently, and the treatment that they are put under is disgusting. And I don't, you know, it's something that why we all need to freaking know this stuff, why everybody needs to know what our rights are. I mean, that cruel and unusual punishment, you know, talk about vibration and frequency, you know, that lowers the hell out of your vibe. You know what I'm saying? And being put in a place where you just really can't get all the information and see straight. You know, that is a right, you know. You can apply this to lots of things. It doesn't necessarily have to be incarcerated. Cruel and unusual punishment. 9th Amendment. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. So any right cannot deny or disparage another right for any other people, any other individual. So, you know, my right to practice my religion cannot interfere with your right to freedom of speech or your right to the press. 10th Amendment.
Yep.
This is a very, very important one to know and understand. The power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. Now, when you first read that, you might say, well, if the powers are not given to the United States in the Constitution, then the state governments get those powers. And if those state governments don't take those powers, then the people get them. That's not the case. The people are the states. That's what it's saying here. Reserved for the states. In other words, the people. Okay, so the power is not delegated to the federal government, the United States, by this very freaking document, by this Constitution, are reserved to the states, are reserved to the nation of peoples. And if we so choose, we enact it into our state governments. But I really think that this amendment right here is, not knowing it is what allows for a lot of very just toxic things in our day-to-day life. You know, the United States government takes on a lot of power that is not outlined in this Constitution. You know, the NSA, the ability to monitor and record and spy on all the people, that's unconstitutional as all get up. You know, even the FBI to come in and you know, harass you for plants.
Yeah.
That's not in the Constitution. You know, all the 3-letter agencies are the ones that just, I think, resonate, make it obvious. You know, those were created by the government to do all these other things that were not outlined in the Constitution.
And they all have Dun and Bradstreet numbers.
Yeah, they're all a corporation, have corporate interests, entities. I don't want to go down that hole, but so yeah, let me just stop the share for a minute, wrap this one up. I'm going to go ahead and drop that document in here right quick. It's called articles of a. Oh, come on, man! I gotta close it. Let's try it again. Okay. So yeah, I know that was a little rough. There's a lot going through, but I put it out there. You know, go over it once at least. Read every word. You know, you can really, when you understand those rights, you know, and even in that, you know, if you understand there's other Supreme Court rulings that have specifically identified specific rights. You know, the one thing that's not covered in there is the right to travel. You know, the Supreme Court has ruled that every individual has the right to travel throughout the nation by any means it wants. That cannot be infringed, cannot be restricted. It can be regulated, can be ensured safety. But yeah, so there it is, folks. Thank you so much for your time. You guys got any other comments or questions or stuff you want to kick around? But
Yeah, no, that was a long one. That was good.
that was a lot of time. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for staying on. So, all right, I'm gonna wrap it up.
All right, Raymond.
Have a good night.
All right, have a good night.
All right, see you guys.